You want a war? You're gonna get one.
Now get the guns, the drugs, to my generation will take the fall. The saints will cross the nation, and it's a sex, the gods, the fakes, the frauds, they're messing with me. Come on, come on, come on, let's get it on. Move to the music, play that fucking music. Live through my music, yeah.
Hey yo, another week, another episode of Reliving the War. This week we've got WWF Raw's War coming from Detroit, Michigan, while WCW Nitro takes place in Yakima, Washington. Spring Stampede 99 just took place and we have a new WCW champion. Diamond Dallas Page has reached the top of the WCW mountain, and it was all thanks to Macho Man Randy Savage. Randy tells DDP that he owes him one at the beginning of Nitro, but DDP gets immediately attacked afterwards by Scotty Steiner. So between Macho, Steiner, Ric Flair, Goldberg, Hogan, Nash and Sting, Page definitely has a lot of folks coming after him. Let's look at Nitro's first hour and then we'll check in with the WWF as usual. Sit back, relax and enjoy another week of madness from the Monday Night War. Sting comes to the ring to cut a promo and the icon says he's here to stay. Guys like to say they built WCW and many guys like to say they have all the power in WCW, but Sting's the only man on the current roster who stayed with the company through thick and thin. The only man who can claim to have built WCW is the icon himself. Sting says things are gonna change, it's showtime tonight on Nitro, and Sting wants a main event match tonight against Diamond Dallas Page for the world title. The crowd went nuts for this challenge, but don't get your hopes up folks, this match does not happen tonight on Nitro. Juventud Guerrera took on Rey Mysterio in the Nitro opening match. You know what to expect from these two, and as an added bonus, Juvi didn't botch a single move. Way to go Juventud. The match unfortunately gets cut short when Chris Benoit and Dean Malenko run down to attack Rey. The Horsemen want those tag team titles, and it looks like Billy Kidman's in absolutely no rush to help out his tag team partner. Raven and Saturn end up making the save. The Horsemen get taken out as Mysterio stays on the mat, and when Saturn goes to help Rey to his feet, Mysterio ends up shoving Perry away. This leads to Mysterio taking a beating from the same man who just helped him out, but the camera's cut away and we totally miss it. Well done WCW. Hardcore Hack shows Hugh Morrus how to win his next match. In order to beat Bam Bam Bigelow, all you need to do is use a kendo stick. Morrus gets in a few practice shots and it looks like he's having a real good time. Bigelow and Morrus then have their match, and Tony Schiavone said a WCW Hardcore Championship belt's currently being considered by the executive committee. It does feel like WCW's a bit late to the party here, but I'll admit their pay-per-view hardcore matches so far have been alright. Hack vs Bigelow at Spring Stampede wasn't bad at all. Bigelow defeated Hugh Morrus here when Morrus missed his no laughing matter moonsault. Bigelow pulled off his diving headbutt and Bam Bam walks away with a victory on Monday Nitro. Backstage, Rey Mysterio's annoyed that Billy Kidman didn't come out to help him earlier on. Kidman's just arriving to the arena and he says WCW had him sign an autograph, so he had no idea his tag team partner was in any kind of trouble. Mysterio buys it. Kidman says he's got Rey's back, but I don't know man, I think Kidman might be doing Ray dirty here. Maybe Billy Kidman can't be trusted. Alright, what delights await us this week on Monday Night Raw? A corporation promo, didn't see that one coming. On Nitro, the world champion addresses this challenge from the man called Sting. Shane McMahon leads the corporation to the ring, and apparently the Boy Wonder has a few announcements that will shake the foundation of the World Wrestling Federation. He welcomes Rodney and Pete Gas to Monday Night Raw to kick things off, so there it is. Consider the WWF shook to its very core. Shamrock snatches the mic from Shane, and the world's most dangerous man wants to know where the corporation were last week. Vince told Shamrock that the corporation were a family, but Ken received no help when the ministry took him away and his sister got sacrificed. Ken's sister's been a target, Shane's sister's been a target, so Shane says he'll give Ken his answer in just a moment, but first he wants Stephanie to come down to the ring for a little chat. Vince isn't happy about this backstage, but Stephanie's eager to go talk to her brother. So Vince and Stephanie walk down to the ring and Vince tells Shane this better be good. Shane's currently putting his sister in danger and Mr. McMahon wonders if his son's trying to pull off some sort of publicity stunt here. Shane says his dad's priorities are all messed up right now. Vince McMahon has apparently gone soft. He put Jim Ross back on commentary even though he can barely speak. He's too focused on Stephanie, whereas he should be concerned about serious corporation business. Vince doesn't seem to care about the corporation anymore, so Shane's going to make some changes within the faction. The new corporation's all about youth, it's all about exuberance. There's no place in the corporation for old timers like Gerry Brisco and Patterson, so these guys have gotta go. The Stooges get fired by Shane McMahon. Vince thinks his son's on some sort of power trip and Shane wants to know where his dad's power is. What happened to those balls the size of grapefruits? Mr. McMahon says he's the same guy he's always been, but right now he's focused on Stephanie's well-being. Vince then tries to leave, but Shane pulls him back. And Vince then tells his son that if he wants power, then he needs respect. If Shane wants respect, he's gotta earn it. So Shane says respect this and he smacks his old man across the face. Members of the corporation laugh as Shane and Vince square off to each other. In the end, it's Stephanie who gets Vince to back down. Shane says Vince isn't his father anymore and he's lost all respect he had for Mr. McMahon. But hold up, we aren't done yet with people leaving the corporation. We've lost Brisco, Patterson and Mr. McMahon, but there's one more guy who decides to leave, and that's Ken Shamrock. Shamrock says screw you to Shane and he walks away from Team Corporate. After a commercial break, we see Shamrock escort Vince and company to the backstage area. Vince thanks Shamrock for his loyalty before getting in a limousine with Patterson, Brisco and Stephanie. Meanwhile, The Rock tells Shane and the new corporation that he's going to pop out for a little fresh air. Looks like the Great One has some business to take care of. Over on Nitro, Diamond Dallas Page reminds everyone that he's the new WCW champion. He then, in a very condescending manner, says sorry to Hollywood Hogan for injuring his knee, and Mean Gene says that's not good enough. Hogan's career could very well be over. Mean Gene then wants to talk about Sting and the challenge Sting laid out earlier on. Page says he and Sting come from the same place, they speak from the heart and they thrive on competition. But even though Dallas sees a lot of himself in the Stinger, DDP decides he's not going to give the Icon a title shot tonight on Nitro. This announcement does not go over well with fans in attendance, but Page claws it back a little when he says he's going to face Scotty Steiner tonight in the main event. Dallas has some unfinished business with Big Poppa Pump and DDP did say he was going to wait for the right opportunity. So tonight we've got the Big Bad Booty Daddy in a World Heavyweight title match. On Raw, we've got a Four Corners women's match while Nitro continues on with a Ric Flair promo. Not a lot to say about this women's match because it doesn't actually begin. Sable's new bodyguard Nicole Bass ends up taking everyone out before the bell rings, so there's nothing to see here. It's a harsh reminder of how bad women's wrestling was back in the Attitude Era. Jackie and Ivory take choke slams while Tori gets off easy with a body slam. Sable grinds in an effort to get fans somewhat interested in what's going on, but then the lights go out and we get a message from the Horny Taker. The Prince of Pervs was delighted with the women's action that just took place, but he still wants Stephanie McMahon. Taker says Vince can run, but he can't hide, and very soon Mr. McMahon's daughter will succumb to the Lord of Darkness. There's going to be another sacrifice tonight, another innocent soul will be taken on Monday Night Raw, and the person responsible for this carnage is none other than Vince McMahon himself. On Nitro, Tony Schiavone gets word that Roddy Piper's on his way to the arena. I wonder who the Hot Rod's gonna go after, seeing as Hogan's gone and Bret Hart has seemingly quit the company. Ric Flair reminds everyone who's in charge here. He's not happy with Sting throwing out challenges and he's not happy with DDP booking himself in a match with Big Poppa Pump. Flair then announces that there's no world champion and the belt's currently held up, and that's when Macho Man Randy Savage comes to the ring with Gorgeous George. We still know absolutely nothing about Gorgeous George or why she's even here. Macho Man says he's gonna lay the smackdown on Ric Flair. You know your catchphrase is catching on if the Macho Man copies it. And Savage shows Flair the Spring Stampede main event match contract, legally binding, brother. That championship belt belongs to DDP and there's nothing Ric Flair can do about it. Macho says he's a universal heartthrob, the big showstopper and the cock of the walk. And as for Ric Flair, well, Flair's world must be crumbling around him right now. Rick decides to abuse his power and he announces that Macho Man Randy Savage will never wrestle or referee in WCW ever again. Macho can go back to Tampa and pick up a check because as far as the WCW president sees it, Randy Savage is done with World Championship Wrestling. Lil Nate's Charles Robinson then says Macho did a horrible job at Spring Stampede and he wonders why this, and I quote, bimbo Gorgeous George was at ringside. And this leads to Charles getting his face smacked off his head. It's brilliant. This gives Macho a great idea. His girl against Flair's girl. Gorgeous George versus Charles Robinson at Slamboree. If Gorgeous George wins, then Macho Man's reinstated. Robinson's all for it and Lil Nate wants the match to happen. So Rick says his girl's gonna beat George with a figure 4, while Macho says George is gonna win with a big elbow drop. Sting then walks down to the ring and he issues another challenge. Since Diamond Dallas Trash is gonna dodge Sting tonight, the Icon wants Flair one-on-one on Monday Nitro for old time's sake. The crowd goes insane here and you can see Sting feeding off the crowd's energy. He goes nose to nose with Rick and Flair screams that he's the man and no one can beat the Nature Boy. So the match gets officially booked. Just one small caveat though, Arn Anderson's gonna stand in Ric Flair's corner when the showdown takes place. Absolutely wonderful energy here between Flair and Sting. WCW may be in a state of pure chaos right now, but some things never change. Stone Cold Steve Austin cuts a promo next on Raw. On Nitro, it's El Dandy and the Parka versus the Master Blasters. All I can put this down to is Kevin Nash trying to be funny when booking WCW. Only it's not funny, it's fucking stupid. Nash debuted in WCW as part of the Master Blasters tag team, and this new iteration of the team features Al Green and Chase Tatum. Tony Schiavone says these guys are cat burglars who just got released from prison, so I'm guessing they kept those stockings over their faces throughout their whole prison sentence. This is some truly bizarre stuff from WCW, and now really isn't the time for the company to pull off this kind of silly nonsense. They need to fight back, not dig themselves in a deeper hole. Kevin Nash ends up interrupting the match and he takes everyone out, making the whole thing even more dubious. And after hitting a series of big boots and jackknife powerbombs, Nash takes a swig of Surge and it looks like the fizzy drink makes Kevin's stomach explode. Kev then directs folks to the big screens where a video plays. It's Nash and Ric Flair acting all friendly last week after their mysterious meeting. Nash reveals that a deal was struck between Big Sexy and the Nature Boy. If Flair left Nitro still holding the WCW title, which he did, then Big Sexy would get a title shot at Slamboree. Nash says he hopes DDP still has the championship when Big Kev gets his opportunity, because Dallas has to pay for what he did to Hollywood Hogan at Spring Stampede. The world title picture is getting a bit convoluted right now, isn't it? Gonna need a diagram soon to remember who's beefing with who. On Raw, Steve Austin's got the WWF title belt, but it's not the belt he wants. He wants his Smoking Skull Championship and he promises to get it back after he beats The Rock at Backlash. Shane McMahon's going to be the special referee for this upcoming pay-per-view match, and Austin says Shane won't treat Stone Cold the way he treated his old man earlier tonight. Stone Cold has no issues beating Shane up if he tries to do something he shouldn't. Austin then gives Rock a chance to come down to the ring and give Stone Cold his belt back, but Rock hasn't returned from his breath of fresh air. Oh no. He's standing at a bridge and he says he's got Stone Cold's piece of trash belt. Rock says he could do what Austin did about a year and a half ago when Stone Cold threw the Rock's IC title in the drink, but the Great One's not going to do that. Austin fancies himself as a big game hunter, so Austin can hunt the biggest, baddest species walking God's green earth. Rock says he's on Roody Poo Bridge. It's on the corner of the People's Champ Boulevard and Candy Ass Lane. If Austin wants his piece of trash, he can come get his piece of trash. Austin doesn't think Rock's some sort of super species, he thinks he's the super feces. And Stone Cold promises that he will get his belt back tonight on Raw. We'll come back to this later on. This is an ongoing story that takes us right up until the end of the show. The Big Show takes on Christian next on Raw. On Nitro, it's Kidman versus Psychosis. I was totally expecting the Horsemen to attack Kidman during this match, but it didn't happen. There's no progression at all to the story from earlier on. It's your standard one-on-one match with no interference. It was all Psychosis for the first portion of the match, with the usual high-risk offense you'd come to expect from one of WCW's longest-serving luchadors. A rebound clothesline from Kidman brought young Billy Boy back into the match, and on the outside, Kidman was able to stop a Psychosis aerial attack with a dropkick to the gut. The match ended with a tornado DDT from Kidman followed by a failed powerbomb attempt by Psychosis. Kidman wins the match after hitting the shooting star press, and yeah, good match as always. Over on Raw, Mankind arrives to the arena and he heads straight to the boiler room. He's locking himself in for 2 weeks in preparation for facing the Big Show at Backlash. This match is going to be a boiler room brawl, and Mick's locking himself in there for 2 weeks to save the Big Show from Mankind in the run up to the match. This Big Show versus Christian bout doesn't last long at all. The Undertaker's voice is heard around the arena as he tells Gangrel and Edge to leave Christian all alone to face the Big Show. Christian still needs to learn his lesson for snitching last week on Raw, and if Gangrel and Edge don't leave, then they'll be the ones in deep trouble. The match begins. Christian tries to punch the big man a few times, but little Christian's absolutely no match for the Big Show. Show delivers a big boot followed by a chokeslam, and Big Show wins this very quick match via pinfall, an easy payday for Paul White. Mankind says he knows Big Show's everyone's big buddy, but Mankind has a personal issue to settle with Paul ever since WrestleMania. Show's going to leave the boiler room at Backlash on a big stretcher, and Mankind tells Michael Cole to have a nice day. Shane McMahon, meanwhile, wants the Main Street Posse to go after Mankind right this instant. And even though the boys are a little hesitant, we see Rodney and Pete Gas running to the boiler room after a commercial break. Someone else we see is The Rock standing on Roody Poo Bridge. He's still waiting for Stone Cold and he's still holding the Smoking Skull belt. Billy Gunn takes on Val Venis next on Raw. On Nitro, we've got a Bill Goldberg promo. Goldberg, hot off a win last night against Kevin Nash, says he's destroyed everyone who's been put in front of him. He got screwed at Starrcade, but he got a little vindication last night at Spring Stampede. But there's another little asterisk beside the career of Goldberg right now, and that little asterisk is none other than Bret the Hitman Hart. Mean Gene reminds Goldberg that Bret quit, he's out of WCW, and Goldberg says Bret better get out of the country. When Goldberg was WCW champion, he was hunted by everyone, but now Goldberg's the hunter and he's going to find Bret Hart. Imagine Bret making a jam sandwich in his kitchen and Goldberg smashes through the window. Lex Luger interfered in last night's grudge match, so Goldberg promises to knock Lex's face off when he sees him. Lex looks like this, but he's gonna look like this very soon. And as for DDP, well, Goldberg commends Dallas for what he achieved last night, but it doesn't make a difference who has the belt. Goldberg's going to get it back very soon. So many people want to be WCW champion. We haven't had this many people going after the title in a very long time, and I don't really trust WCW right now to handle all this properly. On Raw, it's Val Venis versus Billy Gunn, and I couldn't care less about this match right now. The initial feud featuring Val, Billy, and the IC title was already getting stale, and seeing as the WrestleMania matches got mixed up, it then just became a thing of the past. It now feels like a filler match, and the WWF have done a good job of avoiding filler matches on their Monday Night Wrestling shows as of late, so it feels like we're taking steps back here on Raw's War. Val takes the lead early on and Billy gets pummeled. Badass comes back after a DDT and this gets followed up with a running forearm in the corner. Venis then fires back with a corner stun gun that looked like it hurt a lot, and Billy gets the shoulders up after taking a butterfly suplex. The match ends when Billy gets thrown out of the ring and he gets attacked by former tag team champions Owen Hart and Jeff Jarrett. I guess Owen and Jeff just don't like anyone in D-Generation X at the moment. Val Venis ends up helping Billy Gunn and Road Dogg comes out to help too, but when Owen and Jeff retreat, Deborah stays in the ring to get a good look at Val Venis. Deborah likes what she sees and Jeff Jarrett has to pull her out of the ring, so maybe we're looking at a Val Venis and Deborah storyline moving forward. Backstage, the Main Street Posse are ready to infiltrate the boiler room and take out Mankind, but the plan doesn't go well at all, and Foley's able to handle both Rodney and Pete Gas without breaking a sweat. The posse get thrown out of the boiler room and Mick says he hates Rodney's haircut, but then he hears the sound of a woman crying. Raw cuts the commercial break before we can see what's going on. Double J and Owen Hart take on the Acolytes next on Raw. On Nitro, it's Rick Steiner versus Booker T. The TV title's up for grabs in this Nitro match. Rick brings Booker down to the mat in record time, and when the two get back to their feet, Steiner performs a German suplex. Booker puts those long legs of his to good use when he replies with a spinning back kick, and Rick hits the mat hard following a running forearm. Rick doesn't get in position for the axe kick, so Booker decides to kick Steiner on the chin instead, and Rick then takes another kick that sends him out of the ring. After a little action on the outside, we go back to the ring where a Steiner line sends Booker over the top rope. Steiner stays in control before the two get back inside, and Booker goes to the well one too many times, and Rick's able to counter another kick attempt with a big slam. Our match ends with with Rick performing his scoop power slam. He has Booker right where he wants him. He goes to the top rope for a Steiner Bulldog, but then Stevie Ray shows up and he hits Rick with his trusty slapjack. Booker performs the Harlem sidekick and Booker retains the TV title. This isn't the first time Stevie's helped Booker like this. It happened on Thunder and it also happened recently on WCW Saturday Night. I really hope it leads to a Booker vs Stevie Ray match down the road, but I'm not holding my breath either. Even though Jarrett and Owen Hart broke the golden rule about 5 minutes before this match took place, D-Generation X did not interfere in this match. Things started off as normal with both teams trying to get the upper hand and it looked like the Acolytes were firmly in control, but then the Ministry of Darkness hit the ring and the match gets thrown out after around 2 minutes of action. For those keeping count, we have had one clean finish on Raw so far and that was the Big Show beating Christian in a matter of seconds. The lights go out in the arena and The Undertaker makes his way down to the ring along with Paul Bearer. And wait a minute, Jeff's getting held back, Owen's getting held back, the horny taker's going after Deborah, isn't he? That no good dirty dog. Undertaker grabs Deborah by the throat and he says Deborah's gonna get sacrificed tonight. This is all Vince McMahon's fault because he took Stephanie away, so Deborah's gonna have to do for now. The horny taker isn't a very picky man. Taker wonders how many more innocent people are going to have to be sacrificed before he gets what he wants. Mr. McMahon's the cause for all this, and Vince can stop it all if he just, hands over his daughter and says, there you go, dead man, have at it, good sir. But luckily for Deborah, Ken Shamrock's here to save the day once again, and the Ministry get out of the ring when they see Ken's baseball bat. The Undertaker stands his ground and he tells Shamrock to hold up just a darn minute. Kenny Boy should head to the back and save his sister because Ryan's currently in the boiler room. And according to Big Viscera, Ryan enjoyed everything that's happened to her. My god. Ken then freaks out and he starts attacking Ministry members with his new weapon of choice before running to the back, and The Undertaker tells Ken to be careful. Be very careful. Back at the Roody Poo bridge, The Rock's getting a little impatient. The Great One's still waiting for Stone Cold, but don't worry, Austin's going to show up very soon. New US champion Scotty Steiner cuts a promo next on Nitro. On Raw, the boss man scheduled to face Goldust. Scott says trying to find a pretty woman in Yakima is like trying to find a needle in a haystack. Folks, tell me in the comments, is this really true? Scott needs a freak he can put on a leash so he can get his release. I swear to God, whoever says this man's bad on the mic needs a Steiner screwdriver. Big Poppa Pump is the wordsmith of WCW. Scott's ready to put on a body rocking, knee knocking, cherry popping showdown tonight in the Nitro main event. DDP winning the world belt didn't impress Scott because DDP is not big enough, he's not strong enough, and he's not smart enough to be a man like the big bad booty daddy. After tonight, Scott's going to take Kimberly and show her that size does matter. He's going to take the WCW title and he's going to change DDP's world. When Scott wins the world belt, he's going to do whatever he pleases, and we're going to find out later tonight if Scott can get the job done. Over on Raw, Bossman got himself a shot at the IC title, but the Godfather comes out with an offer for Big Bubba. Bossman can exchange his title shot for one of Godfather's creatures. Godfather says these girls know what to do with a nightstick if you smell what Kama's cooking, and this seems to entice the Bossman quite a bit. Bossman thinks about it and he says he wants not one, not two, not even 3 or 4. He wants all 5 of these dirty harlots to serve hard time. And what do you know, Godfather says yes. The horny taker was absolutely seething backstage, I'm sure. But Bossman leaves with the girls and Godfather starts the match off with whatever this is. Didn't look good, did it? Goldust replies with a back suplex before the two fight on the outside. Godfather takes a ring step bump before the two head back in. Goldust remains in control with a few right hands, and the IC champ pleases Reliving the War fans around the world with some good old fashioned chin abuse. Godfather gets up, he sends Goldust into the corner, and choo choo motherfucker, come get on the whole train. The IC champ throws the challenger to the outside and he then removes the turnbuckle pad while the referee's busy. This plan backfires and it's Goldust who gets thrown into the exposed steel, and Godfather wins the match and the Intercontinental Championship after performing a Death Valley driver. New IC champion on Raw, guys. The hosts come out too to celebrate, so the boss man must have finished up already. The audience enjoyed this too, and I'm not surprised. It's the best match on Raw so far, but that's not saying much at all either. Speaking of hoes, Ken Shamrock found his sister in the boiler boiler room. Good guy Mick Foley was looking after her. The trio hears something though just before we cut the commercial break, and when we come back, the Ministry have infiltrated the boiler room. They're doing a much better job than the Mean Street Posse. Shamrock and Mick get destroyed. The Undertaker orders Paul Bearer to knock Shamrock out with his filthy little rag, and the Undertaker says Shamrock's about to become one with the Ministry. Taker tells Ryan this is all her fault. Ryan's responsible for what happens to Ken next. We have D'Lo versus Bob Holly for the Hardcore Championship next on Raw. On Nitro, it's Kenny Kaos versus Bill Goldberg. Imagine if Kenny Kaos won this match. Imagine if Ken... Never mind, it's unimaginable, isn't it? Kenny gets caught out with Goldberg's rolling leg lock and he takes a quick time out afterwards. The two lock up, Goldberg brings it to the corner, a rake to the face puts Billy Boy in the corner, and Goldberg then begins no-selling Kenny's punches. From here, it all goes downhill for young Kenny Kaos. Goldberg performs his military press power slam, which always looks fantastic, especially against a guy the size of Kaos. Goldberg then pulls off a pump handle fall-away slam just to show off a little more. Spear, jackhammer, Goldberg wins via pinfall, and hey, the guy is still super over. No surprises here, but a few sweet power moves from Billy Boy. Good stuff. On Raw, Al Snow's joined the commentary team for this upcoming hardcore title match. Holly hits his dropkick early on and he looks to take D'Lo out with a hockey stick on the outside, but a few players from the Detroit Red Wings take the stick away. This leads to a shoving match and Holly gets thrown back into the ring, and D'Lo then breaks that same hockey stick over Holly's back. D'Lo then sets a chair on Holly's face before performing a leg drop, and Holly finds himself tied up between the top and middle ropes. D'Lo looks for a chair shot, but Bombastic Bob frees himself, and when Holly tries to use the broken hockey stick, D'Lo decides to go low with a kick to the balls. Holly gets annihilated here, so Al Snow decides to hand Bob his favourite weapon, the old glass of Kool-Aid. The glass gets smashed over D'Lo's head, D'Lo kicks out at 2, so Bob grabs himself a table and he looks to end the match once and for all. Unfortunately for Mr. Holly, D'Lo pulls off a sky high and Bob then gets set up on the table. When D'Lo goes for the lowdown, however, Al Snow grabs his foot and D'Lo's unable to perform his finisher, so Snow and Holly take a few chair shots and D'Lo tries one more time for the lowdown. Snow's able to pull Holly off the table and D'Lo crashes through the wood in spectacular fashion. Hardcore Holly retains his Hardcore Championship on Raw, and I don't know, Al Snow seems really motivated here to take the belt away from Holly himself. Backstage, The Undertaker tells Ken Shamrock that it's time Kenny Boy becomes one with the Ministry. There's no one here to help Ken, not even his old mentor Steve Blackman, so The Undertaker's going to make Ken suffer tonight through a sacrifice before Ken Shamrock joins the dark side. The Rock is still on the world famous Roody Poo bridge and he's getting a little bored. He finds a fishing rod though to bring in some time, and Rock says he should use Stone Cold as bait. When Rock described what he would catch with Stone Cold as bait, I legit creased over laughing. I totally forgot Rock said this, and it isn't even that funny, but it tickled me pretty good.
Hell, we'll probably catch a mutated freak fish since you're such a candy-ass piece of trash.
Ken Shamrock gets brought out to the stage for his sacrifice, but we're gonna get a 2-for-1 offer tonight. As the Brood put Shamrock on the symbol, The Undertaker walks out and he grabs Christian by the neck before throwing him to the floor. Taker then orders Gangrel and Edge to put Christian on another symbol at the other side of the stage because Christian still needs to learn his lesson. The Brood end up attacking other members of the Ministry as Ken Shamrock frees himself from the symbol, and all hell breaks loose when Mick Foley runs out to join the fight. There won't be a sacrifice tonight, folks. The Ministry have lost Christian, Edge and Gangrel, and The Undertaker's in no rush to join in on the fight, so The Undertaker ducks out by descending down to the fiery depths of hell. The Undertaker faces Ken Shamrock at Backlash. It's the semi-main event, believe it or not. And as always, the full pay-per-view will get covered on the channel. So if you don't want to get sacrificed by the Ministry of Darkness, please hit the subscribe button. Next up on Nitro, it's Sting versus Ric Flair, a rivalry as old as WCW itself. On Raw, X-Pac and Kane take on Triple H and Test. The Nature Boy gets shoved to the mat before taking not one but 2 press slams from Sting. Flair then decides to walk away from the match, but he doesn't get very far at all. And after carrying Flair back to the ring, Sting gets suckered in with a classic poke to the eye. It looks like we're going to see the greatest hits here as Sting no-sells a few chops in the corner. The Nature Boy then gets billed from one corner to another as Sting begins firing up. And when Sting goes for a sunset flip, the fans get a good look at Nature Boy's pasty ass cheeks. Rick gets frustrated, he paces around the ring before the match resumes. The Stinger's able to get to his feet after getting thrown down multiple times times, and a big right hand leads to the Flair flop. Ric then goes up and over the top turnbuckle before getting wiped out with a clothesline, and Double A can't believe his boy's getting manhandled like this. Flair needs to snap out of it. Another poke to the eye on the outside finally brings Ric back into the match, and Flair goes low with a chop block. Inside the ring, Flair goes for the leg one more time, but his knee drop gets countered and the crowd rise to their feet when Sting applies the figure 4 on Flair. Flair submits, he gives it up, but Charles Robinson won't call for the bell. Instead, he gives Ric more time to make it to the ropes. The match resumes with Sting taking a bite out of Flair's forehead, and he no-sells an inverted atomic drop, and Flair takes a clothesline. Ric tries to chop Sting once again, but it gives the exact same results as earlier. But things go downhill for Sting when the Enforcer saves Ric from a Stinger splash. The Icon tumbles out of the ring, Arn Anderson gets in a few cheap shots, and back inside the ropes, the Stinger takes a low blow from the dirtiest player in the game. Sting manages to counter a suplex when Ric tried to dump him out of the ring, and the greatest hits continue with Flair getting thrown off the top rope. More no-selling from Sting leads to Flair taking a Stinger splash, and this gets followed up with a superplex. Sting goes for the deathlock, but he gets distracted by Double A. This in turn allows Ric to eventually apply the figure 4 while Arn Anderson lends Ric a hand. So Macho Man Randy Savage comes down and Anderson gets floored after taking a punch. Our match ends with Ric taking a Scorpion Death Drop. Sting wins via pinfall even though Charles Robinson doesn't want to count, and Arn Anderson gets put in a deathlock too as the fans go crazy. I enjoyed this match quite a lot. The competitors didn't break any new ground, but it's classic Sting versus Flair and it's great to see again. Match of the week so far, without a doubt. Over on Raw, Triple H gets annihilated by Kane and he immediately wants to tag out. Test is in no rush to step inside the ring, so clearly there's still some issues within the corporation. Test gets forced into the ring by the Big Red Machine and he ends up taking a body slam, but Test comes back with a dropkick followed by a few right hands. This infuriates Kane. He throws Test into the corner and he gets vicious with a ton of punches and a ton of kicks. X-Pac wants Kane to tag him in, Kane won't do it, so Pac tags himself in and Waltman goes to work on both Test and Triple H. Chyna proves to be the difference maker when she smacks Pac from the outside. Quick tags from the corporation and a chinlock from Triple H keeps X-Pac away from his corner. A spinning heel kick gives Pac the opening he's looking for, and when the Big Red Machine gets tagged in, Team Corporate basically have no chance at all. Triple H gets clotheslined out of the ring while X-Pac delivers a Bronco Buster to Test, and Hunter decides to sacrifice Test in order to save himself. Triple H throws his partner back into the ring while Hunter and Chyna leave the ringside area, and our match ends with a tombstone piledriver from the Devil's favourite demon. This new corporation doesn't seem very streamlined, they're all over the place and they aren't on the same page. We go back to The Rock and the Great One gets a message from Stone Cold. It says 316 on his pager just like it did back in late 1997. Rock is not intimidated, he's not going anywhere, and he's going to continue waiting for Austin to show up on Roody Poo Bridge. Raw ends with Ken Shamrock calling out The Undertaker while DDP takes on Scotty Steiner on Nitro. Roddy Piper shows up before the Nitro World title match and the Hot Rod joins the commentary team for this main event showdown. And look who's back with DDP, it's his lovely wife Kimberly. Scotty Steiner must have been frothing at the mouth right here as Kim watches the match from the audience. And our match begins with the US Champion and World Champion throwing their belts down and throwing hands in the middle of the ring. DDP stuns Scott and he manages to pull off a diving clothesline, and we then go to the outside where Paige keeps the pressure on at the commentary table. After a commercial break, we're back in the ring where Scott performs a belly-to-belly suplex. DDP eventually replies with a belly-to-belly of his own. Dallas then climbs up for a few corner punches, but he ends up taking a low blow. And we go back to the outside where it's all Steiner this time around. A very back-and-forth match so far. We see a clothesline followed by an elbow drop from Big Poppa Pump. DDP's now in a bad spot, but look at Kim, she's absolutely loving it. Maybe she does want a piece of the big bad booty daddy. We see a Frankensteiner from Scotty that doesn't put Paige away. Paige tries to steal a pinfall victory here, but Scott makes Dallas pay with a backbreaker. Dallas comes back with a discus clothesline, a swinging neckbreaker, and a back suplex, but the referee takes a pretty terrible bump when Dallas goes for a diamond cutter, leading to Scott performing a low blow immediately afterwards. Scott then goes to the outside and he grabs a pair of pliers he's hidden inside the US title belt. He uses them to take the top turnbuckle pad off, and DDP takes a few bumps at the exposed steel while the referee stays knocked out. Scott applies the recliner, there's no referee to award him the match, so DDP gets up and he manages to wipe Scott out with a big DDT, only to take another low blow. Our match ends with Scott performing a double underhook powerbomb. He then goes for another recliner, but DDP rams his head into Scott's crotch multiple times. It's effective, but it sure looks funny. Kimberly Page then grabs a steel chair on the outside and she smacks Scott right on the head, and DDP scores a pinfall win after performing a diamond cutter. Kinda funny how Kim delivers a better chair shot than Hulk Hogan. A decent enough main event here. It's good to see Scott continue to get slotted into the final match on Nitro, but as it stands now, it's DDP versus Kevin Nash at Slamboree. On Raw, Ken Shamrock addresses The Undertaker as Mark. Absolute Mark behaviour right there. Ken says Mark keeps slipping out of the arena when Ken comes looking for him, so Shamrock wants The Undertaker to come down to the ring right now for a good old fashioned punch up. The lights go out, The Undertaker appears from behind Kenny Boy, and the dead man gets the better of Shamrock. Ken manages to turn it around and The Undertaker gets his ass kicked, and this prompts the Ministry to hit the ring and save their leader before things get out of hand. Now it's time for Shamrock to pay a heavy price. As the Ministry do a number on Ken, Triple H and the Bossman run down to save their former corporate brethren. This seems a little odd at first, but it makes sense when Hunter and Bossman start attacking Ken while Shane McMahon watches on from the stage. It appears that the Ministry and the corporation are united in their dislike for old Kenny Boy. And I don't know guys, maybe Ken should have stayed in the Motherfuck Dojo after all. We go back to Roody Poo Bridge where The Rock's just about done waiting for Stone Cold. He's just about to throw Austin's belt over the bridge, but then The Rock smells trash. Here comes Stone Cold to reclaim his property. Rock and Austin have a fight that Rock quickly gains control of after hitting Austin with his fishing rod, and seconds later Austin finds himself dangling over Roody Poo Bridge. Rock says "Long live the king" before smacking Austin off. Nah, he didn't, he just said go to hell, but "Long live the king" would have been better. And a Stone Cold dummy plops into the river like a turd falling into a toilet. Rock throws the smoking skull belt over the bridge and Raw fades out for another week. Nitro wins Reliving the War this week, and honestly, it wasn't even close. I loved the Austin and Rock story that carried on throughout Raw, mainly thanks to Rock being so entertaining, but the match quality was pretty terrible this week on Raw in comparison to Nitro. WCW put on a good Kidman vs Psychosis match, a good DDP vs Steiner main event match, and a Ric Flair vs Sting match that I really enjoyed. WCW also steered away from using lower card guys to fill up TV time, so yeah, a good episode of Nitro this week. Raw's on 91 points, Nitro's now on 71 points, and we've got 19 ties on the board overall. In the TV ratings, Raw jumped up to a 6.3, while Nitro scored a 4.4. From here, unfortunately, it's all downhill for WCW. They don't get a rating this high ever again. Next week on Nitro, Roddy Piper has some pretty bad news for Nature Boy Ric Flair. We get a DDP vs Goldberg world title match in the main event, and well, look who's back in WCW. On Raw, Ken Shamrock looks for some revenge when he faces the Big Boss Man. An old rivalry gets reignited when Triple H faces Mankind, and The Rock holds a funeral service for Stone Cold Steve Austin. Thank you so much for watching Reliving the War. I really do hope you enjoyed this week's episode, and I'll hopefully see you all in 2024. Happy New Year, everyone.
Bring it on! What you gonna do about it? Bring it on! Is that what you got? Bring it on! So what you gonna do about it? Bring it on! Gonna kick your sorry ass, so what you gonna do?
PPA, no info for the DEA. Federal agents mad cause I'm flagrant. Tap my cell and a phone in the basement. My team supreme, stay clean. Triple B, lyrical dream, I'll be that. Catch a seat at all events bent. Gats and holsters, girls on shoulders. Playboy, I told ya, me and Mike's to me. Lose too much, I lose too much. Step on stage, the girls boo too much. I guess it's cause you run with lame dudes too much. Me lose my touch, never that. If I did, ain't no problem to get the gap where the true players at. Throw your rollies in the sky, wave them side to side, and keep your hands high while I give your girl an eye. Player please, lyrically.